Hello and welcome to the Deputy NBA podcast. My name is Sean. Joining me today is Marco Holden Shopping. How are we, Mr. Shopping?
Pretty good. It's funny you mentioned that. My friend Renee said today about my Instagram handle being Marco B Shopping, as you bloody referred to there, that I should finally change it to Marco B Cooking. Because I've been to the shop, I got the food now.
Yeah. Well, and then, you gotta unpack.
Yeah, I gotta unpack, and then I gotta get everything on the stove. And then in a couple of years, I could change it to Marco B Eating, which, if you read without any punctuation.
yeah, Marco B Eating.
Yeah, not so funny.
Marco shopping for meat.
Yeah.
Marco unpacking meat. Yeah. Yeah. Well, remember you were doing like Marco B Easter eggs? You were doing like...
It's the worst holiday to start with.
You were doing
Marco B Spookin'. Marco B Christmas or something like that.
Yeah. You just do it monthly.
Yeah. All right. Well, Easter's actually around the corner now that you mention it. So.
What season is it? Scorpio or something?
Marco B celebrating President's Day.
Oh yeah. Marco Black History Month. Yeah. Well, just before we get into the pod, we got at the top of the run sheet. What's going on with Kate Middleton? No, that's not the shooting guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. She's been missing.
You really caught me off guard there. Yeah, have you heard about this, Sean?
I only heard about it today when I saw the meme on X.com.
Yeah, so she's apparently been out of the public eye for about 2 months, which is like, you know, shout out to the British paparazzi. They do their job well. Like, if there's a royal existing, they're usually getting a photo of them like once a week. And she just hasn't been in anything for about 2 months. Now, the official line is that she's recovering from abdominal surgery, which, you know, as NBA fans, we'd know how long that takes. What, 3 to 4 months, something like that.
Yeah. I call it 6 weeks where I'm from.
Yeah, maybe 2 months in Pelicans terms, but a bit longer for everyone else. But yeah, then there's just all these theories on the internet. It's like, all right, well, maybe she got a botched facelift and she's recovering from that. The BBL was a popular one, or like, you know, more outlandish stuff like she died and they're trying to clone her and like, get the clone out there. Charles didn't like her and knocked her off like Princess Diana. But yeah, where do you think Kate Middleton's?
I like the clone idea.
Yeah.
Because as we know, it takes 2 months to bake a clone. So.
Well, where is it then? Come on.
Well,
show us the clone.
Now
that everyone's onto it.
Now that everyone's onto it, maybe going to take 3 months.
Right.
We know it's not
Throw
a
the
clone.
timeline off.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
I think she's been replaced by a reptilian or something. Like that. You know, it's just kind of adjusting to its human face.
I think it was 2 weeks ago that Lucas and I were talking about big conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to reptiles.
Yeah. Well, in year 10, I think it was, bloody Fitzroy High School, great school, but a bit left of centre, let's call it occasionally. One of our classes was conspiracy theories.
Really?
Like, in lieu of doing just like a regular like history SOS class or whatever, we did conspiracy theories, looked at all the big ones, and then at the end you had to make one up and like get evidence to back it up. Mine was actually that Princess Diana was murdered by sort of like underground florists association who would like, you know, periodically
UFA.
Yeah, the UFA, exactly right, who'd you know, intermittently knock off big celebrities to like boost flower sales. Because I think it's like the day she, like in the week after she died, the floristry industry made like £2 billion or something like that. It's just Buckingham Palace. It was just carpeted with gifts from royal family lovers. And then I managed to find like a florist in Paris that drove the same car that was like the car that went into the tunnel just after it.
Yeah.
And like one of the theories is that, you know, that car like clipped the back of her car and sent it flying into a plane.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't happen, but it's good to think about.
Yeah. Well, you could get into some Batman theories there. Because what if Poison Ivy is behind it all? Because she wants flowers everywhere. So if she was to start an attack, she's got the flowers. They're not planted though; they're clipped.
Yeah.
So we have to look into her powers.
She might be against that actually. Now that you think
true.
about it. Well, it's a good wrinkle to think about.
Yeah.
So you know, put that in your pipe.
Yeah. And speaking of putting it into your pipe, the Deep2.com, an article's been published today by Matt Parnell, and Matt Parnell went into. It was a deep dive on the stats. Also, you and I just both typed it. Incredibly simple to type in.
Even for me, it's more like THED, and then it automatically comes up.
Thed.com. But Yeah, so it was a deep dive on stats that NBA teams are better when their scorers pass, where he eliminated all the sort of go-to guys who usually a team has a points man and an assist man as their single their single player.
Yeah.
So he got rid of all them, like the Tyrese Halliburtons and the Luka Doncic's and the Nikola Jokic's, and they just looked at teams, looked at players, and how successful their teams were when they pass more and when they had an above average passing number. And I won't give it away too much, but very interesting stats. And it's also an embedded table on the deep2.com.
So cool. Was that, I have to assume you were involved in that in some capacity.
yeah it was it's a plugin called Table Press.
Yeah, right.
And like I was looking at tables on WordPress, and like the Table Press has got like 2 million downloads and 5-star reviews. The next best has like 300. And it's like, well, these guys must be doing something right. But yeah, I don't want to give away too much about the article, but check it out on the deep2.com.
Yeah, and we've just been absolutely churning out content.
Yeah.
We're in a real purple patch. Go on there every other day. There's a new piece. So don't just check out this article. Just keep typing in the deep2.com on the daily, I would say.
And if you're sick of reading, there's podcasts.
You're joking.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
That's the same network.
Same network. Yeah, that's the exact same network. Any other intro stuff you want? I can talk about the dentist. Like I went to the dentist. Long-time listeners of the show will be familiar with a certain story I've told about visiting the dentist. Without going into too much detail, I no longer see her anymore. Because
that just raises more questions.
Well, I used to have this old codge who checked me out, and then this lady who would do the clean. But now the old codge is retired, being replaced by this young whippersnapper.
Okay.
And he has got his cleaning license or whatever the fuck. Yeah. I don't know why the old dude couldn't clean.
Probably he's just so old he can't be bothered, and he just gets the what do they call dental technicians, not actual dentists.
Right.
The ones who clean your teeth, I don't think they need a full dental degree.
Right. So this bloke who's got both, he's fucking raking
or he's just happy to do the dirty work himself, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, he last time I spoke to him, he like looked at some stickers on my phone and was like, talk to him. I was like, I don't want to fucking talk about stickers on my phone, man. I'm stressed out about the dentist. I don't want to talk to you, and I especially don't want to talk about something I put on my phone 9 months ago. But I came in, I was wearing this like college shirt. Like I don't know if you've seen me wear like fucking 2XL college shirt. It's like Duke Women's 2013 Final Four, right?
Yeah.
And I came in. Here you go. And then he could tell I wasn't up for the small talk like usual. Like, man, dentists get me in and out. 99.9% of every other place, I'll sit there and chat. But he's like, just as we're about to like get it down, the table's slowly getting lowered. He's like, man, you always come in with like the nicest basketball shirts, and it's just like so random and stuff. And I'm like, oh my god, thank you. He's like, what's this one? 2013 Final Four Duke Women's. Like, that's elite. And I was like, what was last time, man? And he must be writing this down, but it was like Golden State Warriors opening night 2008, 2009. And I'm like, yep, well, next time I go, which is in August 23rd, I'm wearing the fucking most out-of-pocket basketball shirt.
Is he a basketball fan, or I just so slowly squashed that mosquito? That's great podcasting by me.
And the Patreon viewers are going to fucking lap that up. Is he a basketball man? Yeah. He hasn't made any further comments about basketball.
That would be a good opening.
If you're a dentist and you saw 2 basketball shirts in a row, your next question, or maybe I'll go for the Pels, or who do you go for?
Yeah.
He hasn't broached that.
Okay. You're very good at... I feel like you have the most people in public engaging me about basketball stories of anyone in our esteemed group of podcasters and writers.
Yeah, that's that. Thank you, man.
I don't know what it is.
Well, remember when we were having the Josh and we did that just fucked up podcast here?
Yeah.
And then I walked into the bottle shop because we didn't have a bottle opener, and I went in and I'm like, hey man, do you have a bottle opener? And he was like, not on me. So that dude previously had seen a Warriors shirt and was like, oh, you go for the Warriors, man. I'm like, who do you go for? He goes for Atlanta. Anyway, so great.
I've worn my Trae Young jersey into that
hoping
into that
for
IGA. Well, no, like kind of regretting it actually.
Yeah, what's the next question?
Yeah.
Why is the number wrong? That's your Lou Will. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went in, great experience, talked about the Warriors, went in again, said, do you have a bottle opener? He goes, not on me, just crazy. I don't want to have that experience. Went in again, I saw him for the first time since then, and I'm getting side eyes, like, heads down looking at the old age pills in front of the counter, like, we're like, we've had a divorce. Yeah, and then so that's the dentist story. So, do you want to make a leap day joke?
Nah, I think we can skip to the meat of the podcast now that I think about it.
We've trimmed the fat. That is just on 10 minutes. It'll be 10 minutes, 30 seconds when we slap in the intro.
The podcast I was just listening to on the ride over was like, we can't get to the meat of the pod until 10 minutes in. We have to bullshit. So I think we've done the industry standard. Let's call it.
Phew, God, I'm sweating over here. Thank God we hit it. But yeah, today, do you want to introduce the topic?
Yeah, so today I think we want to talk about what's going on at the top of the Western Conference of the NBA, of course. The whole West has just been so tight this season. Like, really no one has made one seed their own, except for maybe the Utah Jazz in the 11th seed. And though that top four has just been like within... at one point, I think they're all within half a game of each other. Now, I think, has it blown out to about 2, something like that? Yeah, like let me get today's standings up. That would be helpful.
The Clippers lost. Now they're 4 games ahead of number 1.
Yeah.
OKC's half a game behind, and Denver's 2 games behind.
But there's really not much separating those 4 teams, and sort of who falls where is really going to affect the postseason, because the strength of the teams, like in 5 and 6 and in the play-in, like it's pretty good. And 2, like as we'll get to, I think in the latter half of this discussion, there's a couple of bogey teams for those top 4 seeds sitting below them, who they'll sort of be hoping to miss in a potential first round matchup. But yeah, we just sort of wanted to, I guess, separate the wheat from the chaff, figure out what's what is ultimately going to separate these 4 teams? Like, what are they excelling in? How much of this is just like good regular season play, and then how it can translate into the playoffs? So yeah, where do you think we should start with this, Sean?
We'll go through numbers. In defense, Minnesota's first, OKC's 4th, Denver's 9th, Clippers are 13th, and in offense, OKC's 3rd, Clippers 5th, Denver 10, and Minnesota 17. That's before today's leap day games. But I want to start off with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, as just mentioned, are 3rd in offense, 4th in defense. I think out of every number I just mentioned, that's the highest average, right?
100%, yeah.
But I've been watching a bit of OKC lately, and as you might have heard on the Boris Dirk podcast, I do like watching Oklahoma City. But I think they are the weakest playoff threat out of the top 4 in the West, and maybe... like, there's some really good Phoenix numbers when all 3 of their stars are healthy. Maybe they're weaker than the Phoenix Suns with a healthy Bradley Beal. Because for various reasons. Let me just go into a little monologue. I've written stuff down here, but when you get into the playoffs, the biggest thing that sort of points to your success is veteran leadership, and veteran leadership usually boils down to not making mistakes, and that's minimizing your turnovers and minimizing your defensive mishaps, right? So because of that, the other team just simply doesn't have as many opportunities to do what they do, and a lot of what OKC does on offense is get out and transition, is get out and run. And whenever there is a bad or a weak option on defense, it's just they just absolutely abuse it. Whether that's J-Dub or whether that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai can shoot over everyone. He can shoot over 7-footers, but like whenever there is a small person on the court, he's like, well, I'm gonna spend 20 seconds trying to get on that player. And when you get into the playoffs, like there's just fewer of those teams. And I don't want to say like, oh well, OKC is not going to win because they don't get to play Detroit twice in the playoffs or something, because that's an unfair comparison. But the teams that they're going to be going against at the top, and I'm not going to say that they're going to lose in the first round. I'm more talking about the conference finals, because the teams they're going to face in the conference finals and the finals just have little to no holes in terms of a small player who's bad or just a bad player who's bad that they can really attack. And then we'll talk about it later, but on the other end of the court, Josh Giddey on offense just is not being guarded no matter what, and that's just the way it is. And look, maybe he's going to have like a Kelly Olynyk versus Washington in 2015 run, where it's like, oh my god, Kelly Olynyk just hit 6 threes and Boston won the series. Maybe there's going to be one Josh Giddey game, but you just can't really bank on that. But yeah, so for the mismatches that these guys are probably going to face in the conference finals, you've got like pick between Drew Holiday or Derek White. You know, who out of those dudes do you really want Shai Gilgeous going against in the post? Jamal Murray and MPJ, who are probably the weakest of the names that I'm going to write down, but Jamal Murray, just fought like hell in the most recent playoff run. Like just was excellent against Phoenix, where that was probably going to be the matchup that he lost the most, against Devin Booker and against Kevin Durant. But he just fought really hard. MPJ just had one of the best defensive stretches of his career in the last year's playoffs, where he was just like a very good 6'10" human being. Mike Conley for Minnesota, he's probably the option that Shai would want to attack against Minnesota. You and Lucas seem to think that he's the defensive player of the year. We will talk about Minnesota here as well, because I also don't think that they're going to go very far in the playoffs. And then LAC, James Harden's perennially the guy, but he's just never been bullied in the post, and like he might stop trying, but as soon as you like bang into his chest, we've seen this forever. Like he's just a very sturdy man who doesn't get bullied. And any of their big men who are just being picked apart by the Lakers today before we started recording, like their big men are bad, but for what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wants to do, which is like turn around and then bump into their body, he's just not going to really be able to do that. So I just think, combining the fact that the top teams just don't have a weak spot to attack like Shai Gilgeous likes to attack, and because the lack of turnovers, the slower possessions, their transition game, and they're excellent in transition, their transitions game is just going to get a little bit worse. Take away those points, take away a couple of easy Shai points when it's like, oh, sick, like Aaron Holiday, I'm going to get 2 points right now. Take away those sort of matchups, and it's like, oh, their offense does really dry up, and they don't have like a secondary option where it's like, okay, everything's fucked. Well, like with the Warriors, we'll give it to Steph, he can throw something. The Nuggets can give it to Jokic, and he can just post up anyway. Like the best teams just have someone who can, like Jamal Murray and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they all just have someone who can put the ball in the basket. The Jays for Boston. And I just don't think there's that secondary thing where it's like you've got a flaming bag of shit. Where are you throwing it in OKC? Chet just doesn't have the strength to post up a smaller guy if it lands on him. They just don't really have that option right now. And I think 2-3 years from now they might, but right now I just don't think they will.
I don't disagree with you in terms of, you know, where you're landing, like in OKC's sort of longevity in the playoffs. And I think like there's super, not easy, but there's super straightforward ways to beat them, like in a 7-game series. But I think you're underselling, you know, Shai in a way. I think he's like, I think of any team out of that top 4, he's almost the one player, maybe Kawhi, I mean Jokic obviously, but he's maybe the one player who I think will just be like guaranteed 28-30 points a night in any game. I think teams, because he really, there was, I mean look, we've all had this thought, but there was a great Thinking Basketball piece about this earlier this week about like how good of an isolation scorer he is and how good, you know, ISO scoring is in the playoffs. Like when you get into like the last 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter in the playoffs, that's all it becomes. It's like if the game's within 10 points, like it just becomes the team's 2 best players, like you know, going back and forth, ISOing each other. And like he goes up against like really, really good defenders and gets what he wants. You know, Nickeil Alexander Walker, who like there was this great play where like he just followed him like every single cross, every single like, you know, change of direction, like he did everything right, and Shai still managed to find someone open for 3. Like, and this is against Minnesota, which have the league's best defense.
Fewer holes.
Yeah, when Cat's not on the floor, like there aren't really any holes. Like, I mean, like you said, Mike Conley might be like
small, but
small, but he's still hard nosed. I think teams are going to beat OKC through what you were sort of saying in the second half, which is that they don't have a clear second option. Like, I think you let Shai get 30, maybe.
But can I just say, when you're saying 30, you know he's got the most 31-point games in NBA history for a single person.
Yeah, right.
It was like,
I believe that.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god, why does Shai just get the exact same stuff?
He just gets 31 every single night.
Yeah.
Like, let him do that. Don't let him, you know, like, don't let him open up the game for as much for the rest of his teammates, which is like what happens when you start really building that wall and defending him well. That's what happens is like all of a sudden, you know, Lou Dort or J-Dub is open in the corner for three. And then like, yeah, let Jalen Williams try to beat you. Let Chet Holmgren try to beat you. Because like, that last point you were saying that you're like, I think in the future they might have like a guy who's that second option that you can throw the ball to when things aren't going well. I think that's J-Dub. Like, I think he fully has... You know, I think he has the potential to be like a true second offensive option in the NBA, but like he's in his second season.
Yeah,
he's every month he's like progressing. You see his game changing and progressing, but he's like not there at all. He's not a conference finals second option. In the slightest. But yeah, I'm not sold on the idea that like those four teams don't have enough weak spots for Shea to exploit, because he's really that good, man. Like,
he is, and like I really want them to go far, and I want them to win a lot. I'm just like, you know, we've got these top four teams, and there's no questions about Denver. Like, if Denver wins the title, you and I are both gonna be like, that's completely understandable. Like that, I believe that. The Clippers, it is nice seeing Kawhi be good again, and there was a quote that I wanted to say, but someone asked Kawhi why he's had such a long season, why he's played so well, and he's like, well, I didn't tear my ACL and I didn't tear my meniscus. I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense, because the last time we saw him healthy was in the bubble playoffs, and you know, he had a just horrible Clippers Doc Rivers fall apart, come out losing from 3-1 up against Denver Nuggets, but since then it's just been injuries, and he had that great.
And he was one of the best players in the regular season in 2020. Like, he was, and I think he's just back at that level now.
So I sort of believe in the Clippers more, but after watching them just like go on, lose a 24-2 run against the Lakers, it's like it is a little bit hard. Their big men are really bad, and I know they've been trying to upgrade that for a while,
but you know, the problem today, aside from Paul George being injured, was also Ivica Zubac.
Yeah, true. You know? I completely fucking forgot about him. Yeah,
like, you know, he's not the best starting center in the league, but he's better than Mason Plumlee. When you swap those Plumlee minutes for the Tice minutes, and then you swap the Tice minutes for Zubac minutes, like they're a much stronger team.
Yeah, I actually completely forgot about Zubac. That's great. But so I think I can just say, like, I'm putting Denver and the Clippers above Mini and OKC. I might be underselling Shea. I mean, like, I'll be rooting for Shea. And I think Shea's probably my MVP.
You're a Shea OG, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I think I tweeted it when we were watching the World Cup up at Tukaruk. I tweeted it. I'm like, Shea's going to win the MVP. But just the inexperience, like, there's just going to be like so fewer mistakes. And like, I know you're talking about like they can find holes, but man, like, just fucking KCP on him for 48 minutes. Like, you can't be too confident.
KCP on him for 48 minutes. You know, 7 games in a row as well. And that's the thing. It's crazy that he's, you know, he was first team All NBA last season. He's an MVP candidate, and he hasn't played. Well, he played the playoffs in 2020, didn't he? But like, how much have you changed as a player since you were playing with Chris Paul on like this skeleton of a roster?
Like,
that
Dennis Schroeder was ahead of him.
Yeah. I was looking at box scores from that series the other day. I don't remember it very clearly, but God, it was a good series.
Like the Lou Dort block and then the James Harden block on Lou Dort. Did that happen both? Yeah. And then, no, because James Harden got blocked by Manu Ginobili in the exact same way in like the 2014.
And then it's one of the classic ones where James Harden's like screaming, face to the ceiling. It's just in the completely empty gym somewhere.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Minnesota, who are first in the league in defense by quite a while, 17th in offense? Now, who's your mate who's been in the DMs saying that we don't give like the Wolves enough love?
Oh, that would be bloody Angus, former stepbrother of member of the show Lucas Petridis.
Really?
Their parents used to be married to each other.
That's crazy how that works.
But he's a lovely guy. We used to have him on JVG all the time. But you know, he's a Minnesota fan, and it comes through. But yeah, Mini, like, again, they've been they've been really good. Like, they're just such a hard team to beat. But one stat I grabbed out, I don't know why I've been loving this stat lately. It might be for an upcoming piece on the deep2.com.
Hey.
The net rating in clutch time, Minnesota are 22nd. So when they're getting to those, squeaky bum time games, they haven't been able to execute very well. And it is giving me flashes of the Utah Jazz in 2020-21. This team that's like so good defensively. Like, they have a Defense Player of the Year candidate. Like, Rudy has been that this year, for sure. They really have like serviceable defenders, like, all through their lineup. Like, Ant's got the build for it. He's been a bit better this season. He's not great. I mean,
McDaniels.
McDaniels is like, an all-defense sort of guy. Nickel Alexander-Walker coming off the bench. Mike Conley's still pretty good as well. And that's great. That, like, really helps you just, like, strangle teams and put them to bed. But then when it comes down to the end of games, like, apart from Anthony Edwards' heroics, there's not really much else going on. Like, I mean, we saw Cat have... what do you have? Do you have 70 or 60?
Yeah. 62.
Yeah, and lose the game because he's just chucking up shit. And there was no alternative game plan for them to win that game. And then you are seeing more of that, like, well, their defense just isn't holding up in those, like, late game situations. Like, one of Rudy or Cat's often going to the bench. And then, Rudy is just not, he's not getting... It's the same thing that happened in Utah in my eyes. Like, he's not getting the kind of benefits of regular season play where teams aren't, I don't know, they're like not thinking as hard about your defensive scheme. And then when they do start thinking about it, they're like, oh, well, we know how to beat this. Like, we'll drag this guy out to the 3-point line. And then, like, it just opens up so much of the game for us. What do you think about Mini's chances in the postseason?
For as much as Lucas and I were fighting in the group chat about, like, Rudy's DPO, why candidacy, like, it's a regular season award. I think he deserves to be the regular season Defensive Player of the Year. But I'm not, like, delusional saying that, he's just going to do it in the playoffs. Because he literally never has. Like, he literally has never done it in the playoffs. And it's like, the devil's advocate might say, well, they're going against PJ Tucker and James Harden. Like, what a crazy 1-5 combo. It's like, no, well, they're also fucking losing to, like, just any 5 that can shoot.
Yeah.
And if a team doesn't have a 5 that can shoot, they've probably got a 4 that can shoot. Or in a pinch, they've got a 3 that can shoot and just play the 5, right? Yeah. And Rudy just can't punish them on the other end. And maybe that's different now because Cat's also going to be there. And if they do go against a super small lineup in the first round or the second round or maybe even the third round, if they go up against a super small lineup there, maybe Cat's going to have a massive game where it's just like that's the way to get over Rudy Gobert not being able to post up, having another post up player next to him. But then you've got 2 guys in the paint because the whole point about Rudy being next to Cat is that Cat's quote unquote the best big man shooter of all time, not born in Germany. So, like, I just don't believe
Where's he on the all-time 3-point scoring list? Like 130.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, he's still young, but... it's just... I just don't believe it in the playoffs. Like, believe it till you see it. Like, don't believe it until you see it. Rudy's never done it, and it's such a good parallel to the Utah Jazz because it's a very similar team. Like, you said it before, you got Donnie Mitch and Tony Edwards, Mike Conley, and I don't know if you said this on the pod, but comparing Bojan Bogdanovic to Karl Anthony Towns for his role in this Rudy Gobert offense. I can see them just beating the crap out of whoever they get to face, and like if they're in the 4-5, which they're currently in the 1-8, but if they're in the 1-8 and it is Dallas, the Lakers, or Golden State,
that's not good.
I might be picking that 8, and then it's just fucking Rudy Gobert, and like Dallas, Lakers, Golden State, all those teams have dudes who can stretch out Rudy and know how to beat Rudy. Yeah. And it seems like everyone just hates Rudy, so it's and like again, if they get the 2 seed, like maybe the best thing that could happen to the Minnesota Timberwolves is they fall to 4th in this tightly compacted West, and then they get to play someone who's maybe like.
But even then, it's like I feel like Phoenix would beat the crap out of them as well. Like they'd be the perfect team to stretch them out. Like having. having KD playing the 4 or the 5 in some minutes in the playoffs against a team with two like pretty immobile 7-footers, and then you're not even really giving up that cat matchup. Conversely, and like there's just that team almost reminds me of the Clippers team, like the Terrence Mann like just dunking on Rudy and stuff like that. Man, I don't want to sound like a homer, but like the Pelicans do really really well against Rudy Gobert as well. For whatever reason, Zion just loves playing against him. Like Rudy will drop right back to the rim, and that's just like Zion's favorite thing to do against 7-footers is like have them under the rim where he's like mobile, agile, like an acrobatic enough finisher where it's like, all right, well, you're not actually going to block me, I'm just going to like get on top of you and lay the basketball in. So I mean there might not be a good matchup for them like 5 through 8 really, like which is pretty damning to say about the 1 seed and the best defense in the league.
And I don't mean to like put down Tony Edwards, but it's like it's the Rudy Gobert problem. And everything I said about OKC, who have the 3rd best offense, everything I said about them against going up against veterans, going up against guys who aren't going to make mistakes, and you just don't have that easy 2 points to get here and there. Minnesota's 17th in offense, and I'm concerned about OKC's offense, who are 3rd and like have proven to do it. And like I could well be wrong, but like Minnesota are a below average offense. And they're going to go into the playoffs, and they're going to be playing probably some pretty veteran-laden teams.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not looking good. Now I feel bad for Angus because I was reading those DMs. Was it you or Lucas who was?
I think it was Lucas. Yeah.
I was reading those DMs, and it's like this. Like if I was following a team that just came out of nowhere and got the number 1 seed and was like the best defense ever, I'd be just like him. I'd be sitting there like, man, like what the fuck, like. What else do we have to prove? They're the number 1 seed, they're doing it, but it's just the Rudy Gobert problem.
Yeah. Can I play devil's advocate for a second? I don't even truly believe this. But like despite their offensive troubles, they're a good 3-point shooting team. Can you imagine a late game where Kat and Rudy are both on the bench and Nas Reed is at the 5?
Wow,
and they just outshoot whoever they're playing against?
Yeah.
Because like I mean, this also seems to be like the trend for Rudy Gobert teams is like you kind of have to. I mean, you shouldn't have to, but you kind of have to have a playoffs where like you're like, all right, fuck, this is an issue. What do we do about it? And it's like, is that what this season is? And then next year, it's like, all right, like there has to be a coach in the NBA who can figure out how to play Rudy Gobert in the playoffs, even if that's not playing him at a certain point. And I mean, Cat's just as problematic in the playoffs, honestly, like as on defense. But yeah, like will that lesson have to come with like a flaming 1st round exit to the hands of the 7th or 8th seed?
Yeah, and a good stat to point to for these teams, and you wrote about it in your OKC article a couple of weeks ago, but the record against teams above 500, Minnesota 23-12, OKC 22-12, Denver 19-15, Clippers 19-16, so obviously like those 2 teams. But the 2 teams with a lot to prove who haven't been there before are winning in the regular season. And also like Nikola Jokic, down the end of last year, he was in the MVP discussion, and then he had it was like a hand injury, and it was like he was inactive for like 5 days in a row, and then I checked it today, like he played 25 minutes, inactive, played 25 minutes, then rested like the next 7 games. And it's like a hand injury is such a crazy one where it's like, you can a non-surgery hand injury, like that's sick. That's I can't wait to see what the excuse is for Jokic down the end of this year again, and they're probably going to lose. But
like Denver and the Clippers, I think are both in the position where if they can like stretch that gap between 4 and 5 to like 4 or 5 games, like Kawhi, Paul George, Jokic, Murray, like they're not playing for the last part of the season because I don't think and we can talk about them more in a moment, but I don't think either of them are anywhere near as worried about like their 1st round matchup or their seeding or anything like that. Like, and that's something that like the Timberwolves and the Thunder, I don't think are gonna have the luxury of. Like, I don't think Shea's going to stop playing, on match day 74 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not like last year, where the Golden State Warriors just dodged the play-in in the last game of the season, and everyone was like, well, the Lakers are in the play-in, they're it's going to be a matchup that you want to dodge. And the top of the West last season, which is actually quite interesting to look at, Denver Nuggets, Memphis Grizzlies, Sac Kings, Suns, right? And so the Kings, it was a bit unfortunate that they got the Warriors. They might have won another matchup, but I don't think they'll ever beat the Warriors, right? And they obviously lost in 7. Steph, 51 in the closeout game. Pretty fucking good. Grizzlies got the Lakers, and the Grizzlies were depleted. The Lakers obviously won. So that was you've got these two young teams up there who are really worried about these just veteran teams that were
and also I think personal bogey teams for both of them. Warriors are kind of custom built to beat the Kings, and the Lakers
they had the Dylan Brooks LeBron shit.
And they're really the only team that can match their physicality.
And funnily enough, it's probably going to be the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors who are again those bogey teams. But it's the Nuggets and the Clippers, I really don't think they're concerned at all about the Lakers or the Warriors, and they shouldn't be. They should just absolutely smash them. Sort of missed a point when I was talking about Jokic, but on-off ratings for other Nuggets. On-off numbers, Reggie Jackson, offensive rating of 111, defensive rating of 118. Peyton Watson, offensive 111, defensive 113. Zeke Naji, 112, and defensive of 113. None of those dudes are going to play past the first round. Also, looking at on-off numbers, Jokic is leading the Denver Nuggets in off numbers in on-off offensive rating, and it's also one of the reasons why he should be in the MVP discussion. Second is Jay Huff, and Jay Huff has played in 11 games and 30 total minutes, and he's second in the team. Jokic has played 1,900 minutes, and he's got a higher offensive rating than Jay Huff. For Jay Huff to have that higher number, everything had to fucking break perfect. But for Jokic to beat him in 1,900 minutes, he's just so good.
So what you're saying, Jay Huff could be the 7th man in their playoff rotation?
Yeah. Well, in their 6-man playoff rotation. Do you want to move on to potential matchups or any final comments?
That's the only thing I'd say about those on-off numbers is I really thought Peyton Watson was going to have to be in their playoff rotation.
Yeah.
Just as that other option they have on the wing.
I think he might be.
Because at the moment, Aaron Gordon's going to have to be playing the 5 minutes and the 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, so who's the...
God, alright, this is a good question for you, Sean. What is the Denver Nuggets playoff rotation?
So we know it's 7. Oh, well, it's
what's the...
Man, Reggie Jackson's averaging 23 minutes. It's Reggie Jackson will play... DeAndre Jordan played 5 minutes a game last season, right? No. Reggie Jackson will be playing 5 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Christian Braun, and then it is Peyton Watson, because Justin Holiday's just been bad.
Yeah.
Even though he's shooting 40% from 3. And Strawberry had one of the shittest. Julian Strawther had one of the shittest on-off numbers.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I liked him.
Yeah, he's like a poor man's Hawkeye. He's Jordan Hawkins.
You watch him play and you're like, wow, that guy can really play basketball, and then everything else is telling you that he shouldn't be on the court.
Yeah. All right, any final comments on the eye test?
Just that the one final thing about those teams' record against teams above 500, where the numbers just do not agree with how you feel about how the Clippers and the Nuggets are going to go against other good teams, and it might just be that they just don't care as much during the regular season. I think that's kind of the long and the short of it. Yeah,
which it's a little bit maybe the Clippers should care because they haven't proven anything, but they're just full of vets who don't care.
100%. Yeah. And that's why I've kind of liked them this season. I think they did this a few years ago, and then it was derailed by one or both of their star forwards getting injured, where they were just pretty quietly good versus their 2020 very loudly being good.
Yeah,
you know the whole streetlights, not whatever the fuck it was. That was so annoying, and I think that kind of turned everyone off the Clippers even more than sort of the natural Clippers dislike you feel as an NBA fan. But I've really admired kind of how quietly good that they've been this season. There hasn't been all this buzz about them. It's just of course they've got James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard.
It's the solar lighting, not not LED lighting.
Yeah.
All right, potential first round matchups. Who do we reckon each team is afraid of? Where do you want to go?
Well, I mean, we kind of talked about Mini. I think they're afraid of pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think they should be afraid of the Kings.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be the one team. I mean, they'd probably be fine with the Pelicans, but like,
I mean, you're confident, and I believe your confidence.
Yeah.
Like you're a Pels fan, you would want Mini out of any of these.
100%.
That probably says something.
Yeah, I would not want OKC, and there's no way I'd want the Clippers or the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Although we do quite well against the Clippers. But yeah, like I would love Mini. I feel like Zion could have 7 straight games of good basketball against Minnesota. Like,
Maybe 4. You should tank into the play-in and then jerry it so you lose the first game.
That's some big brain stuff there, sure.
And then your second round matchup's the 4-5.
Yeah, right.
Oh
God, that's actually not a bad idea. I'll have to get Willie on the phone and see what he thinks about shutting Brandon down for a few weeks. Okay, so who do you think they'd be worried about?
So, like in the future rounds, they'll be worried about the Nuggets. Yeah. First round, I don't think they should be worried about anyone. Like the concerns I made were against. Like, I'm talking about their fucking finals resume against Boston, right? Yeah. I don't think they should be worried about, like, anyone. Maybe just the Nuggets.
I think the Lakers, purely because they would just be so physically dominant over them. And, I mean, although then the way that the Lakers play, you know, kind of a bit more slow and deliberate, that would play to the Thunder's advantage, I think, because they would sort of be able to beat them out in transition and stuff like that. But like, I can just imagine Anthony Davis and LeBron James having, you know, like, who's guarding LeBron James?
I know, but Chet's there. But I mean, who's guarding Shea? Like, it's Austin Reeves and D'Lo. Like, it's pretty fucking pretty good.
Wow.
But
or
I mean,
Cam Reddish.
Out of all the teams, I guess the Lakers are. The Lakers just with AD and LeBron. Like, I guess everyone's slightly scared of them. Yeah. Nuggets. Who should the Nuggets be scared of?
I don't think anyone either, to be honest.
Wait, sorry, let me butt in then. Who should the Nuggets be scared of in the East?
I think I would love to see a Nuggets Milwaukee Bucks finals. Not because I think the Milwaukee Bucks are particularly good this year, but just because like I think Giannis versus Jokic is like maybe one of the ultimate NBA matchups you could ask for.
Yeah.
And that a good Bucks team might be the only team in the NBA that's like truly able to slow down the Nuggets because of Brook Lopez and Giannis, but that would have to be a well-coached Bucks team, which isn't where they are at the moment, and one where like Giannis and Brook are playing to like their absolute best level.
Yeah. Like the Celtics, like Porzingis is buffer than he was 5 years ago. It'd be good. Yeah.
What do you think about the Cavs? Do you think they'd be like a weird anti-Denver sort of serum or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like they just have a lot of ways to attack people.
Yeah.
But then you're going up against KCP and Aaron Gordon. One of those dudes is going to be on Donnie Mitch. Like, they've just got they've got big bodies to throw. I think Celtics versus Nuggets is a 7-game series, and it might be a coin flip.
For sure.
I'd love to see a Philly-Denver final series. Like, that would just be a spectacle of like the two best big men who've just been dodging each other for years. Like, Embiid can't rest in game 1 and 2, right? But just I'd love to see Jokic just put him the fuck away in the finals after like everything that's happened in the whole discourse. That would be awesome.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but maybe for the three-peat. What about the Clippers?
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas love beating the Clippers in the playoffs.
That's a really good one. I would really like to see that. Like, is that possible?
I think it's not just possible, it's likely.
Well, so Dallas is half a game away from the 5 seed, I guess, Dallas, but I think every team should be worried about the Suns, but also kind of invite the matchup, because Beal and Booker are going to, like, I don't think they can play 7 straight games in a series, right? No. And you're going to kick the shit out of them in that game that they miss. But have you seen like the numbers with all three of those stars? They're the best offense in the world, and that's sick. So I'd be worried about them just as like everybody's bogey, but.
I mean, that was the thing in the playoffs last year. Like that Denver series, there were moments where you're like, "Fuck, the Suns might just win this because they're putting up so many numbers. Like they're just putting the ball in the baskets. Like KD and Booker are just scoring over and over and over again. Like it wasn't that they were the better team. That's just like if you get them on the wrong night, that there's nothing you can do about them. And now they've added like another 20 point per game scorer to that mix. But that I think that also makes them like pretty easy to game plan against. Like if you really need to beat the Phoenix Suns, I think all four of those teams should be able to find a way to do it.
Yeah. There's a reason why they're the 5 seed and they've struggled, but also you talk about the Clippers and how they've been like quietly successful. Something to be said for KD just like quietly playing like all 82. That's good. Like it's like KD's going to be there, and then as soon as the playoffs happen, KD has been there before. And
instead of getting injured and not playing, he's just like, well, I'll just score 15 tonight.
There's something to be said for just like. For all the credit we're going to give Jokic for having like a broken fifth metatarsal that heals in days before the playoffs, there might be a sneaky little bit of KD is just waiting. Like KD knows that he won't say any quote that'll like up his reputation unless he actually wins. And then side storyline like the explosive potential of the Phoenix Suns, just like KD being like, well, my career's running out, I need to go somewhere, and we're not going to have it. We're going to be over the second apron. We can't trade picks, and we can't use the mid-level exception. And if any of our free agents leave, like KD's going to be like, well, fuck, man. Same. And then after that, is Devin Booker going? Bradley Beal's got his no trade clause. Like, there's a lot fucking riding on the
Bradley
Suns.
Beal, Phoenix Suns. I feel like the Clippers sort of have that same drive as well, and it's maybe not as obvious because they're not kind of in desperation yet. But like the fact that they're both healthy and just side note, how good is it when everyone in the NBA is healthy?
Like what?
You get 7 teams that could finish with like 48 wins or higher.
Imagine if Ja Morant was still healthy as well.
God, far out. Those Memphis Grizzlies. But yeah, so like I think Kawhi is going to have that same attitude going into this playoffs. He's like, well, fuck, at any moment, like a ligament in my leg could explode and my career is basically over. And where did the Clippers have nowhere to maneuver to either?
Nah, I think the Clippers building a new stadium and just like Kawhi choosing LA and Kawhi just constantly re-signing with LA. And Paul George is the only free agent there. I think because like with Phoenix, like these guys didn't
tomorrow.
Guys didn't choose their destination. KD had a short list of teams. But he just wants to win a title. Devin Booker was drafted there. He has no real allegiance there.
Right.
Other than being there for like 8 years. But you know what I mean? It's like it's like with the Clippers, it's like Paul George and Kawhi are like, well, I like being in LA. Stuff like that.
Devin Booker, he's top 10 in assists per game this season.
Yeah.
He's fully just doing the point guard thing.
Fucking Drew from the Boris Burke podcast. Doris Burke podcast. I always mispronounce it. Point guard Booker. They've got a point guard. His name's not Grayson Allen.
Any final thoughts, Sean?
No. We got no news because nothing really happened. But, just leap day. Oh god, I haven't had a leap day in like 4 years. Like this is. I remember Homer Simpson made a joke where he woke up and then like his alarm went off and he goes, "Nah, it's a leap day," and he just didn't go to work. And then he just like pigged out, and his boss called him and was like, "Oh, where are you?" He's, "It's a leap day. Like I shouldn't have to exist today. Like this is fucked." It is pretty fucked that the Earth just spins 0.25%. Like a little bit faster.
Yeah, we couldn't just get it right. Like,
yeah. That's pretty cool.
Best thing about 29th of February, you can't be like, fuck, I can't believe it's not March yet. It's March already.
Yeah.
Like I was genuinely like, wow, February's got more days this year. Like I'm not feeling 2024 slip away.
See, you're acting like it's Tuesday and it's like, God, it feels like Monday. So what the fuck does February feel like? It's also overcast and cold.
Yeah, that's true.
Nah, sorry to dampen your candle there.
Hey, maybe I needed it, alright?
Hey.
Need to be taken down a peg.
No further comments, mate. I'll speak to you next time.
Peace.
This episode of The Deep 2 is presented by Gelateria Bico, the official gelato of The Deep 2. Gelateria Bico, handmade gelato in the heart of Brunswick.
You want to talk WNBA? Maybe some WNBL? Australian Opals chat? Heck, even dabble in some EuroLeague? Find the W Basketball Show on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.